Thank you for tuning in. This is Tate from Cybercake, and welcome to the Cybercake Drawing Board. Here we'd like to give you an inside look on the artist process. Today's project is we're going to be working on a brainstorming session. Our producer Alex has sent us a copy of some characters that we may be developing for a high fantasy type game in the future. So let's take a look. So the main concept we're going to focus on for today's project is a wizard who plunders dangerous dungeons, partially for the rush. The assignment that Alex has given me on this one, he does say he wants to have it moderately cartoony. Now there's a lot of different directions you could go with moderately cartoony, and at the moment I wasn't feeling quite that creative, so I needed to find a way to get my juices flowing and get the artistic integrity online. Because of this, I decided to take a bit of a backwards approach to the character development portion, and I started developing instead a dungeon or some sort of a tunnel that this character may find himself in. Once I had that established, it was a little bit easier to start brainstorming ideas on who would be in this type of environment, and what they may look like. So by this point, I decided it was time to step away from the environment. We went ahead and put in some hazy filters on there to not be quite so distracted by the background as we're developing the shapes and construction lines for our characters in the foreground. Now, a lot of times when it comes to developing a concept or a design, the more different ideas you can put towards it, the better. I would have liked to push this one a little bit further, but I wanted to keep in mind a little bit more of a time frame as well. So we've decided to go ahead and work with 3 different concepts for this type of wizard who would be in this dungeon. At the moment, I'm not quite really paying too much attention to what these characters' backstory is or anything. We're just mainly focusing on what types of shapes and outlines that we can get in this character's silhouette, and trying to come up with a bit of an interesting build to them. One thing that I did focus on was making sure that each of the different types of wizard that we're developing started with a different type of pose, something that was able to give us a bit more of an idea of what we can kind of work with for developing the character's personality later on. We start with some very loose construction sketches, just to kind of get an idea of what we want with each of these characters. Once we've got that established, it makes it a lot easier to go in and start doing some refined art without worrying so much about whether or not we've got the proportions right. At this point, we start filling in some of the line art and really developing the details of the characters. So once we got to this point and I filled the characters in with a flat color each, I was able to take a look at the character on the far left and decide that we weren't quite as happy with the design on this one so far. So we went ahead and just erased it all and started fresh with some new construction lines. Then once a new construction sketch was in, it was a little easier to make the line art really fit the form that we were hoping for with this character. So at this point, we've gone ahead and made sure that we have each of the characters with a flat color on the inside of the line art. And in this case with Photoshop, what we're going to be doing next is we'll start a new layer on top of that gives us a chance to make a clipping mask out of it. So with the layer on top of it, when we hold down the Alt key with the Windows computer and click the space in between the 2 layers, it develops a clipping mask, in which case we can paint as much as we want on the top layer. It only shows up in the space that was actually painted on in the layer below. This makes it much better for blocking in some colors without having to worry too much about making a mess. And we can concentrate on more important things, like developing a light source and making sure the characters have some depth. We decided to keep a pretty simple color palette on these characters. I didn't end up trying to make different colors for each of those. We just went with this same purple, pink, and gold type colors that we can use, and then go ahead and change the colors a little bit down the road if we need to. Now that I'm finished drawing the characters in some sort of an artistic pose from behind, it's made it a little bit easier for me to start concepting out what I'd like the characters to look like in the front. And because of this, I was able to visualize exploring different expressions and different poses with them as well. What we've gone and done here as far as the shading goes is just started with one mid-tone color inside all of the sketch art, and then worked with different opacities of the eraser in order to bring out some more highlights. Once that's done, we could go a little bit darker with the mid-tones if we need to. Sometimes you just need a mustache and a really cool headband. And that's it for today, folks. Thanks for tuning in. So be sure and catch us next time, where we're going to be continuing the artist process.